that say? Okay. I'll call the Tuesday, December 13th, special meeting of the Cumberland Board to order. Roll call, Ms. Vash.
Here.
Mr. McDonald. Here. Mr. Butler is absent. Mr. Scown. Here. Ms. Reese.
Here.
Mr. D'Ambrosia. Here. And the chair is present. Okay. Approval of the planning board minutes of November 15th, 2022, regular meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
The video.
Move it closer. Okay, how's that? Good, okay. What I've got here in the, yes, November 15th, 2022.
We'll make a motion to approve the minutes as,
Oh. All right.
that's okay.
Okay, Ms. Reese, okay. Motion by Ms. Reese, second by Mr. McDonald. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And before we begin the agenda of the evening, I want a short little announcement. This meeting is also being held virtually on the Zoom platform. If you have any interest in any item on the agenda, we will turn on your audio and promote you to a panelist as the item is called. If you would like to comment or ask a question, please raise your hand by clicking on the button labeled raise hand when the chairman opens the floor for public comment. And the chair recognizes that Mr. Costa has entered the chambers. Okay. Consideration and adoption of draft master plan written decision, project name Blackstone Valley Prep High School expansion, owner applicant RI Mayoral Academy, SM Blackstone Valley. Location 65 McCundry Street, Assessors Plat 2, Lot 3, and 5 Jones Street, Assessors Plat 2, Lot 158. Everyone has read the decision. If there are no comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McDonald.
that in the matter of Blackstone Valley Prep High School expansion, Mayoral Academy, 65 McCondray Street, Assessors Plat 2, Lot 3, and 5 Jones Street, Assessors Plat 2, Lot 158, that the planning board decision as outlined in a memorandum presented to the board, which is 17 pages in length and has an attachment A of 2 pages, be approved.
I have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Reese. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And for the record, the chair also votes yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it's Kelly.
Oh, so,
I think you know that I'm here remotely. I do have a meeting in about 20 minutes. I'll stay on for a little while, but I'm going to have to sign off early tonight.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, item 4, public informational meeting, major land development master plan. Project name Storage Rentals of America, owner SROA 95 Industrial RI LLC, applicant Kimley Horn and Associates, location 90 Industrial Road, Assessors Plat 23, Lot 184. The zoning is I1 with public water and sewer. The applicant requests a positive recommendation to the town council for a zoning amendment to allow construction of a 3-story self-storage facility. The applicant requests plan approval to construct a new 3-story self-storage facility. Mr. Partington, I understand you're requesting a continuance.
So the last meeting's held over, huh? You've forgotten my name already. No, you may recall from the last meeting that this was on, I'd indicated to the board at that time that storage rentals, after hearing the comments from the neighbors, were committed to revisiting the design. They've stayed in constant touch with me. As a matter of fact, I spoke to Mr. Raish this evening. And once again, he has been working with his designers. He's convinced that he is going to be able to convince the abutters that the plan will be acceptable in its new form if that takes place. And he's asking for continuance for the sole purpose of continuing to work on it. I asked him for a time frame since this has been the second request. And he said that immediately after the first of the year, again, he's been in contact with the design people. After the first of the year, he's going to put together a final proposal on a change. In the meantime, I would encourage anyone who has any questions. I know that the planning department's always available to answer questions, but specifically about the progress of this and any particulars that I can offer that I have with respect to any proposed changes, anyone is welcome to contact me also. So, I mean, I would suggest for the benefit of, I know that also due to the, whenever it was certified as complete, I know Mr. Monica informed me as to the date when this was certified as complete. So your date is when for a decision to be rendered?
Decision currently expires February 3rd.
February 3rd. So, I mean, we have no problem extending your time for responding till the February meeting. And I would ask for the February meeting because there's going to be, I guess now, no other January meeting. I mean, I think you've probably had enough of special meetings for a while. So, I would ask for that whenever that meeting is, I can extend it to that time and we'll be willing to accommodate the planning board anyway with respect to your obligation to vote, the deadline.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McDonald.
I think it's procedural. It would be the 23rd of February, but we have not approved next year's schedule. I might suggest that we take that if we may. And approve.
I'll say March 1. If you want me to make it easier, Mr. McDonald, I'll just say, for the record, I'll say till March 1.
Okay.
That way it
Mr.
covers.
Partington, so you didn't want to go with our email exchange earlier?
And I'm not doing it intentionally. I might have, whatever I agreed to today.
It was May 4th.
I certainly don't expect it to go that long. But if I made that agreement, then that's fine. I know that the client's not going to have a problem. My concern also, again, and I spoke to one of the abutters earlier today. We can disagree all we want, but I do like to accommodate them as much as possible because they all have schedules. So
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Mr. McDonald.
In the matter of Storage Rentals of America, owner SROA 95 Industrial, Rhode Island LLC, assessors 90 Industrial Drive, assessors plat 23, lot 184, that the matter be continued to the 1st of March with the understanding that if the applicant is aware of needing more time, that the applicant asked to be placed on the agenda for the February meeting.
thank you. And if you want to add that to the record, that in the event of some other issue with scheduling, if I made that agreement with the planning department, if they would feel more comfortable in the motion to have that until the May date, that's fine with me.
Yeah,
It's up
Mr.
to you.
Chairman, we did get a email from an abutter who was concerned about the February vacation falling
Okay.
on that week. And of course, we're recommending that the applicant work with the abutters, at least the ones that have declared their interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I don't know if it's going to happen, Mr. McDonald, but I always I always suggest, I strongly suggest that these types of projects, especially when you already have the facility available, to have a private meeting outside of the planning board. And I'm hoping that, I think they're going to do that, and I'm really pushing for that. Good, bad, or indifferent, whatever comes out of it, I think it's always healthy to do that.
I think the motion can stand as it is, with
Okay.
the understanding that, let's say for argument's sake, there's still an issue between the applicant and a butter, that the applicant would still come back and request.
Yes, I would, yes, to accommodate. It would serve no purpose otherwise, because an abutter, I would imagine, could make the same request that I do for continuances, and, you know, I really don't think it would be appropriate for me to object at that time to that.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Scown. Any other discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Ma'am, you had a question?
I don't know. I would be guessing at this point. All I can tell you what I've been told for the purposes of asking for a continuance, that there have been efforts with the design people to try to accommodate the neighbors. And again, as I said at the last meeting, I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope it does. You know, I mean, from what the comments I heard at the last meeting, I don't think that the neighbors want anything there. So, but hopefully we can, you know, hopefully we can work it out. But if anyone, by the way, if I have encouraged them to have a meeting regardless, and I think that can only be good, regardless of what comes out of it. Everyone's on the same page that way.
Okay, next item of business is public informational meeting, town council recommendation and development plan review, project name Duffy Funeral Home, owner applicant Menden Holdings LLC, address 757 Menden Road, plat 16, lot 893. The petitioner requests a positive recommendation to the town council to rezone the property from R1 residential to C1 commercial and development plan review approval to construct a crematorium. And it's my understanding that the applicant is also requesting a continuance.
I am, and this is, as you are well aware, this has been on the boards for a long time. We've been going back and forth with the planning department. And by the way, I appreciate the efforts by Mr. Stevens and on the planning department to try to reach some kind of an agreement on this. As a matter of fact, the reason why I'm asking for continuance was he, again, in an effort to try to reach a settlement about some things we disagreed about, there wasn't a staff report provided. And that's to no fault of Mr. Stevens. It's really, you know, the onus is on us. So, I mean, but we are on, and again, I appreciate also the fact that even though you have another special meeting on January 9th, that we've been put on that agenda for that night. And so I'm hoping at that point, that's going to resolve it. I've spoken to the clients and they will be available on that date, and win, lose or draw, we'll be here that date.
Board have any questions? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to continue the project with J.J. Duffy Funeral Home, applicant owner Menden Holdings LLC, 757 Menden Road, plat 16, lot 893. Petitioner requested a continuance until January 9th.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Scown and second by Mr. Costa. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
The chair votes yes, motion carries. Item number 6, public hearing, Major Land Development, Master Plan, Preliminary Plan. Project name, Polyrack. Applicant owner, RAP Real Estate Holdings Corporation. Address 1600 Highland Corporate Drive. Assessors Plat 51, Lot 51. Zoning is I1 with public water and public sewer. The applicant requests approval to combine master and preliminary plan and master preliminary plan approval to build a warehouse addition to the existing building. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This property has an office building and attached warehouse that was built in 2007. Planning approved the project that year, and the plan showed a phase 2 with an addition to the rear, which is now the proposal before this board. The one-story concrete block building will provide additional storage and warehouse space, and there'll be a driveway for employee use on the side of the building. The only impact from this project that we found is the removal of trees where the addition is going. But the applicant has agreed to replace the trees in kind elsewhere on the property. So the planning department is recommending approval first to combine the master and preliminary plans. And we find the project overall meets the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan. And we're recommending approval of the combined plan on the one condition that the new tree locations be depicted on the final plan.
Board have any questions for Mr. Modica? Okay, is the applicant, or his representative here? Oh, Mr. Parrington, welcome back.
Thank you for those kind words. By the way, I forgot to say, I thank you again to the planning board for yet another special meeting. I'm sure must be wearing thin, but we do appreciate it. Once again, Mr. Monica stole most of my thunder with his detailed report. The only thing I would add here is that we would just ask that it be designated for administrative final. You indicated that the trees are going to be replaced, and that'll be on the final plan. And any questions, I do have a representative from Crossman, the engineers tonight, and the architects as well, just in case, notwithstanding the positive staff report, if there were any questions at all that you had.
The board have any questions for Mr. Partington? Okay. Certainly, if the engineer is here, if he has a presentation.
Hello, I'm Stephen Cabral with Crossman Engineering, and I'll be brief because Mr. Monica gave a great overview of the project. Basically, when we designed the project back in 2007, the owner, Polyrack, already knew that he needed this 11,500 square foot warehousing. It's just that he wasn't prepared to build it at that time. So if you look at the existing aerial photograph, which is on the left side of the plan, you'll see that we built all of the infrastructure, meaning the roadways and driveways, in a manner such that the addition could be built without interrupting the access or parking lot for the project. We also designed the drainage system, the water lines and the sewer lines and the electrical system such that they were capable of accommodating this proposed addition. And if you look towards the right side of the plan on the easel, you see the 11,500 square foot addition. And with the existing office, existing warehousing and proposed warehousing, we do have adequate parking. And actually, in this facility, there are only 9 employees in the entire building. But based on zoning, we're providing over 30 parking spaces so that we don't need to seek any variances whatsoever. Now, one of the benefits of this site is it is within the Highland Corporate Park. And we were also involved with the original design of the corporate park. And at that time, Scott Gibbs, Marcel Valois, and the entire design team made sure that each of these lots could be developed without having to install their own stormwater management system. meaning this facility or this industrial park has a regional, I'll say regional stormwater system, so that the Polyrack site does not have an on-site detention pond or infiltration pond. None of that had to be built. So fortunately, because the way the industrial park was designed, DEM provided us with a letter back when it was designed stating that as the different parcels are built, as long as they're built within the footprint that DEM approved, there was no need for any further permitting. So in essence, we need no exterior water line construction, exterior sewer line, no drainage improvements other than connecting the roof drains. And as I said, no parking. Now, we did install the 7 trees that will be impacted in the location of the building addition. The reason for that was we wanted to create a shield for the temporary paved area that exists in the area where we're putting the building. And we do agree with the planning staff that we will relocate those. So this is probably one of the easiest engineering projects we've been involved with, but I'll be glad to answer any questions. And if you,
Yes.
I was going to say, if you have any questions about the building facade, the architect is
Okay.
also here.
What, if any questions for Mr. Cabral? I'll preface this with my familiarity of Highland Park. And some board members may not be aware, and although Mr. Cabral has sort of alluded to it, that the entire park was pre-engineered. Am I correct?
Yes.
Including drainage and utilities, so they wouldn't have to rip up the road every time a new owner or tenant would come in to a parcel. So it makes it much easier for everybody concerned, not just the park itself, but anybody who comes in to develop any lots. It makes it much easier for them to come up with a really good engineering plan, because it's essentially they have very little to do other than, what's unique to the site and the building itself. Did anyone have questions? Okay. As far as the architectural part of it, it's pretty much kind of just an extension of what you have.
It is. The design intent was to blend into the existing facade.
Right, from the elevations that have been provided, it's,
Yes.
yeah, pretty much standard construction, and nothing really, to me anyway, stands out. But if the board has any questions for the architect, he's here.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Costa.
what is going into this part of the building? Any idea at the moment?
It'd just be warehouse.
Just warehouse?
Right. There's no manufacturing. There is a bit of assembly that occurs on site, but basically it's going to be an open high bay warehouse facility.
So trucks will not go into this building, they'll just
They will
be
not.
loaded on the outside.
Yes, we have a 4-foot high loading dock on the east side of the building. And then on the west side of the building, the Maple Ridge Drive side, we just have a 12-foot driveway. And the reason for that 12-foot driveway is that if the employees need to bring in any tools or equipment to do repairs, this allows them to access the building without having to go through the 4-foot loading dock.
Okay.
And we anticipate that driveway may be used possibly once a week at the most. But
Thank you.
certainly no deliveries would be at that driveway.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McDonald.
In the matter of Real Estate Holdings Corporation, 16 Highland Corporate Park Drive, Assessors Plat 51, Lot 51, that the board approve the application as it is consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan, with one condition that 7 coniferous trees that are being removed shall be replaced in kind elsewhere on the property, and the proposed tree location shall be depicted on the final plan, that the board approve the combining of master and preliminary, and that the memorandum dated December 6th, 2022 to the board from Mr. Stevens and Mr. Modica on this application be included in the motion.
I have a motion by Mr. McDonald and second by Ms. Brochus, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 7, public hearing, major land development preliminary plan. Project name Berkeley Business Center Solar Carports. Applicant owner is Jason McCary, Berkeley Business LLC, location 30 Martin Street, assessors plat 34, lot 188. Zoning I1 with public water and sewer, Berkeley Mill mixed use, special overlay district. Applicant requests approval of the preliminary plan to construct a solar carport.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I will need to recuse myself from this item. Even though I was involved in the discussion the last time, since then I've become employed by the landscape architect on this project, so I will
Thank you.
be recusing myself.
Thank you. And we still have a quorum, so we're good. Mr. Stevens.
Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In regard to this, this application, it's noted that the Berkeley Mill is in a special overlay zoning district and it is zoned industrial 1. So there's no issues in regard to uses. Also, you approved the master plan on June 29th with conditions that there be a landscape plan presented at the preliminary plan level. And that has been received and deemed satisfactory by the planning department. That the Public Works Department would receive a statement of stormwater and drainage with a site plan. That has been received and the Public Works Department is satisfied with that plan. There was one minor item with an outfall drainage pipe that the Public Works Director wanted noted was not a responsibility of the towns, that it was a private matter. And we received a letter to that effect from Mr. Partington on behalf of the applicant, and the Public Works Department is satisfied with that. The applicant also had to become a petitioner and go to the zoning board, which they did on September 24th, to get 3 variances, one for carport height, the second for side yard setback, and the third was for roof coverage. The solar ordinance has a 4-foot recess, which I think we're going to rescind that, and the fire department is fine with that because in regard to commercial properties, they feel like this is 4-foot recess is overkill, especially on a solar carport. So the zoning board granted these three variances. The landscape plan that has been submitted by Traverse Landscape Architects out of Providence, well-regarded firm, has a couple of focuses. One is the eastern side, and recall that we had a concern about the stand of mature trees that are around the east side. I think the departments concluded that, in fact, the ordinance, the town really doesn't have the authority to preclude those trees from being removed. I know that there's statutes passed by the state recently in regard to deforestation for solar, but we don't believe that applies in this case. And in fact, we're impressed with the planting plan for the east side, which includes substantial plantings of cedar, arborvitae, and bushes that would provide a buffer. It won't have the height, but it will be substantial. And in fact, if you're going to have a solar system, you have to accommodate the capacity to have adequate sunlight. So, so we're good with that. And then in the overall plan, we believe that the planting plan substantially complies with the land development regulations as it relates to parking, plantings in parking areas. I think one has to take into consideration that this is a historic site that's relatively narrow, considering the substantial mill footprint of 2.2 acres of floor, and the floor area is probably 250,000 square feet. You want to be able to have this, the owner of this property have a viable economic enterprise. This is good for the economy, good for the town tax base to have adequate parking. So with the mill footprint of 2.2 acres and the solar footprint of 0.72, that's almost 3 acres out of the 5.6 that you really can't have, you can't have trees, and you have asphalt on top of that. So what they've done is they've put more trees than required on the east side of the mill, and then to offset would be less than what's required on the west side. And I'm sure that Traverse would be able to parse the the mechanics of that, the details of that. But I think the message that the department has is that we feel it's substantially compliant, and we support this application.
Board have any questions for Mr. Stevens, Mr. McDonald?
So if I understand your presentation correctly, with the zoning board granting the 3 variances, the offset of the tree installation, and then the communications regarding the ownership of the drainage pipe and drainage itself, that this is, to use a phrase, it's a clean application, no concerns at all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you.
Mr. Ponnington, is this yours?
Good evening. This is, I guess technically it is a public hearing, right? We're on for preliminary. So for the applicant, Scott Partington, again, a very detailed report. And this has been, it's been a back and forth situation. I know if you recall it, the master plan, conceptually, nothing's changed. And what was presented conceptually is the same. The east and west carports, the sectional on the west side, one section on the east side. The variances on the advisory that you give on the 3 variances that were referred to by Mr. Stevens. If you can recall, the lion's share of the conversation at master plan was with a view towards the landscaping. A lot of discussion about the removal of the trees on the west side. And fortunately, the planning department has worked with Traverse, and they've come to a resolution with respect to the plantings. And again, as Mr. Stevens pointed out, you've got a building that is, if not for this overlay and for not the investment that was put into it, would just be, an eyesore and a liability, basically. And because of the way, and again, the historic nature of it and the size of the lot as opposed to the building, there's only so much room you can have to move. And so I think they've done the most with the site. And because basically conceptually it hasn't changed, and if the planning department has given a positive recommendation on the landscaping plan, whatever your desire is as far as going into any particulars, but I do have everyone here involved in the project, including the owner, with the exception of Traverse, correct? Okay. And hopefully Mr. Stevens' representation with respect to his acceptance of the planning department's acceptance of the Traverse plan, and maybe anything that they've got to iron out in the future would be sufficient for the preliminary vote. But I do have the engineers here, and Mr. Macari is here present with any other questions that you may have. And once again, I would ask that if there's an approval, that we relegate the the final approval to the administrative officer.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Partington? Mr. Scown?
Mr.
Hi,
Scone?
Just a question in regard to the abutter. That's on the east side, I believe.
Yes.
So is there any comment in regard to that from the abutter relative to the vegetation and so forth that's been presented?
No, well, I mean, fortunately, they had nothing to say at the master plan, nothing here. I mean, to the extent that, I mean, because you're asking the question, Mr. Scown, there was an appeal taken. I don't think that's a secret. There was an appeal taken from the overlay approval from the council. As a matter of fact, I've got a document that I'm going to circulate this week, hopefully to settle the matter. Fortunately, Mr. Macari, Mr. Kilcagney have met and discussed the matter, and it looks like a resolution is in place, so.
Okay. Thank you. Just as an aside, I think it's a smart project. So
Yeah, and of course, as you know, Redwood, who is the owner of that property, also has a solar carport, so.
good move.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Partington? I'll ask the board, would you like to hear from the engineers or any other experts that are here? If you've got, in other words, so you have questions for them.
I don't have any questions of the experts.
Okay. Yeah, and as the comment has been made before, it seems to be quite a clear, clean proposal.
And I've got to commend, again, all parties involved. The town made every effort to try to resolve this, and the team that I've worked with, and I've been here a lot. This team put a lot of time and effort into this, and fortunately, hopefully, this is all going to come to fruition for a very positive result.
Thank you. If the board has no other questions, I will open up the floor for comment. So if anyone is here who wishes to speak and has any questions or concerns, please come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record.
There's no one on Zoom, Mr. Chair.
Okay, no one in the queue. Okay, thank you. Seeing that there is no one here and no one in the queue that has any questions, I will close the public hearing at this point at 7:09 PM. And Mr. Comments to the board. If there are no comments, I'll entertain a motion.
You want to make that? I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. McDonald.
In the matter of Berkeley Business Center LLC, 30 Martin Street, Assessors Plat 34, Lot 188, that the board approve the application as it is consistent with the goals and purposes of the Cumberland Comprehensive Plan, and that the final approval be given to the administrative officer, and that the memorandum dated December 6th, 2022 for Mr. Stevens and Mr. Modica to the board on this matter be included in the motion.
I have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Costa. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8, approval of the 2023 Planning Board calendar. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're hoping the planning board, we've moved the meetings to Thursdays. I don't know how long you've had them on Wednesdays, but we're sincerely requesting that if you could move them to Thursdays. The reason being is to align it with advertising in the Valley Breeze. because there are advertising deadlines and notice deadlines required by state law. So right now, we're advertising much ahead of schedule than we need to. We're essentially advertising 2 weeks in advance where we only need 1 week, 3 weeks in advance where we only need 2 weeks. So by aligning the meetings with the newspaper, it allows more time for the planning department to review projects and certify them complete. And that's basically our request.
And the chambers are available on that.
We've reserved them in anticipation for every last Thursday.
Board have any questions? Mr. McDonald? No?
If no one has anything, I'll make a motion.
Oh, certainly.
Before I do though, let me just ask, include in the motion the fact that there is a special on the 9th of January, or that's not necessary?
This is just your regular meeting
Okay.
schedule.
All right. All right, I'll make a motion that the board adopt the 2023 regular meeting schedule and deadline as proposed by the planning department. The memo has no date, but it's a single-page memorandum that we received for tonight's meeting. I'm sorry, and to note that the change is that the meetings in 2023 will be on the last Thursday of each month, no longer on Wednesday. And a motion.
Motion by Mr. McDonald, second by Ms. Roshitz.
Is there an exception because of January? Because that won't be the last.
There's no meeting in January, well, because you actually do have a special meeting in January.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This schedule's for a regular meeting,
Yeah.
so I think
Okay.
we're good.
All right, no problem.
with that.
So there will not be a meeting on the 12th?
The 12th is the deadline.
I mean, the 20th, oh, never mind. I'm looking at.
You don't want
Right.
another meeting.
Sorry,
Disregard,
that confused me
It's
too.
not on.
Disregard.
It's not on. the-
disregard.
Thank you.
He wants a meeting.
Wait a minute.
No.
Okay,
Forget.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes, motion carries. Okay. Public comment. Mr. Stevens, did you have any comments about the meeting you had, I guess, Monday? That you'd like to inform the rest of the board?
My meeting on Monday.
Yesterday's meeting,
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean last night?
last night.
well, okay.
Which side of the international date line are you on?
Well, I said Monday, so.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Through me. Yeah, it was very valuable feedback from the business community and from residents. Our consultant presented a number of observations about Valley Falls and Lonsdale that come from data that they have, including there were some takeaways, including there are a number of apartments that are unrented and underused and potentially available for helping us with our affordable housing shortage. That there are some parcels in this area that there might be a rezoning that could be contemplated. And Isabel and Harry were there. Chris Butler was there as well as council people, the council president and Mr. Mativier. One such thought was for the Stop and Shop Plaza. And there's actually a 4.5 acre lot, which has the dollar store and Supercuts, sort of the southernmost end. It's a separate lot. And our consultant Todd Poole. So why wouldn't you think of rezoning that for mixed use? So you could have commercial on the first floor and have a number of residential apartments on the second floor, have it right next to the bike path. And there would be adequate parking. And what you would do would be to provide more customers for every apartment you have demand for local businesses. And if you want to build up the business community locally, you really have to figure out a way to balance the adverse impacts, which is traffic and parking, with the benefits, which is stewardship, investment, and a customer base. I don't know if Glenn wanted to add to that.
Well, sort of. Since Kelly's not here, I would say that since this item's not on the agenda, that we shouldn't really have a discussion about it.
No, just that there was,
We had a meeting, but
yeah, right. No, I didn't want to know any particulars at all
No.
whatsoever, just that,
Anything else you want to know?
no, just so that the rest of the board knew that
Yeah, I mean, this is all in the public domain and
Yeah. we're
they're gonna
engaged.
there's gonna be articles in the
Yeah.
Breeze and the Projo, so you'll have plenty of chances to catch up.
Okay.
But we are encouraged.
Maria,
Oh, now it's time for adjourn?
well,
Motion to adjourn.
okay. Seconded by the entire board, motion by Ms. Rashid, seconded by the entire board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, of course,